In this video, I will demonstrate how to perform a firmware update over Bluetooth connection on an IN2 or IN3 push-button station. To do this, open up the Intelligent Configuration utility on a PC. On the left-hand side, with an active internet connection, click the Check for Updates tab, then click the Check for Updates button. What that does is it goes and grabs the latest firmware versions for any of the Intelligent products and loads those firmware files into the application itself. The next step is to connect to the push button station you want to perform the firmware upgrade to. So on the left hand side, click Connect, select the button you want to do the firmware upgrade for, and log into that button. If there's a new firmware file available, you'll see a pop-up that says something like this. It states that the current firmware in the push-button station is not the newest firmware, and it recommends that you upgrade the firmware to the newest firmware version that is bundled with the PC application. Simply click OK. On the left-hand side, click the Firmware Update tab. And the Used Stored Firmware File option uses the firmware file that was loaded into the PC application. If for some reason you wanted to use a specific file that was different than what was loaded into the application, you can select Choose a different firmware file, browse, and open that file. The easiest way to get the most updated firmware, though, is to simply use the stored firmware file. To start the firmware update, click the Update Firmware button. When the progress bar shows 100% complete, the push button station will reboot automatically. Once the push button station has rebooted, you can either log back into the button or simply close out of the application. This completes the firmware upgrade tutorial.